at 10 o'clock, a specially extended show for you. But now we want to talk about a brilliant initiative that the GAA's 72-man national panel of Gaelic football and hurling referees are undertaking this weekend. They're going to run a cumulative total of 810 kilometres on Saturday to raise money for the suicide prevention and bereavement charity Pieta House. And I'm delighted to say Martin McNally is with us to talk to us about this. Martin, good morning to you. How are you getting on?
Morning, guys.
How much of the 810 kilometres are you actually running?
We're doing 11.2, and that's just not a figure that's plucked out of the sky. In the All Ireland football final programmes last year, there was a piece in the back of it that was quite informative, produced by Aidan Brady, who is a DCU student who looks after all our strength and conditioning, our training, etc. And the 11.2 is the average of what every referee runs in a 70-minute game. So 72 of us are running 11.2, which is an accumulative number of 810. So that's the target this weekend on Saturday morning for everybody.
And do you take the full 70 minutes to run the 11 kilometres, or are you getting a bit faster now in lockdown?
No, well, look, it's, I suppose the 11.2 is a bit different for us because, during the course of the game, you're doing a lot of high-speed, short busts, and, the long, moderate runs isn't really something we do. And funny, I was talking to Dermot Malone from Monaghan. He was just sent me a text of support on it for the weekend, and he was saying, the 5K would be the limit that he would go in long distance running. And I suppose as athletes in the GAA, footballers and referees, we're kind of designed and programmed to do the short, hard, fast running. And yes, it does clock up over the course of a game to, the 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever the case may be. But yeah, it's a bit different for us, so we've had to, Aidan Brady has given us some advice on how to make it easier for us over the next over Saturday. But over the last couple of weeks, we've kind of been changing our training towards it,
Right. Can I ask Martin, over the course of 80 minutes of an intercounty game, unbelievable high intensity in a big pitch like Croke Park, for example, like how shattered would you be come the end? Is it akin to a player where you're like, you could actually be struggling in certain high octane games?
Yeah, well, there's a mix of two things in a game, I suppose. Number one, you have the physical demand of the game. It could be a very open game up and down the field, and the two teams leave your job very, very easy. In the sense that they both want to play football. And that's a different type of shattered. You're physically exhausted, and then there's the other games that are maybe not as high tempo but are very intense and challenge a lot of the mind. You have to have your wits about you. You're quite busy in other ways, and you really come off the field, I suppose, physically but very mentally shattered in them type of games. So it's a bit of both. It depends what type of game you get, but definitely after a game, we're very much like the intercounty players. Like there's some intercounty players, in certain positions of the field that may only cover 3, 4, 5 kilometres in a game, whilst we're averaging, the 11.3, which is quite a high number. So it does demand, us to be quite disciplined in what we do pre and post match, and after the game you definitely would be not doing anything. Like the next 3, 4, 5 days after that is definitely recovery sessions. But like I said, you have the two I suppose type of games where one can actually leave you totally mentally shattered.
So it obviously makes a difference what sort of game it is in terms of how you feel physically. Like I think David Goff was saying previously that he would really have no idea how a game is going or I can't remember if he said who was winning, but certainly how the game is going, like what sort of game it is, if it's a good game or not. Can you almost tell how high quality a game is given how shattered you are at some points in the middle of a game?
You can definitely know the type of game that you're in, with regard to the quality and the intensity and all them kind of things. But if we were to be asked after the game, who did you think man of the match was or any of that kind of stuff, all that stuff goes out the window because, we are refereeing jerseys and we're going, moment by moment, decision by decision, and it's kind of broken down into them kind of things. And people ask you after the game, who did you think man of the match was? And I haven't got a clue. Like, you're just not watching the game in that way. And that's likewise for your linesmen and your umpires and that. And people wouldn't believe you, but you're just actually switched on because I've even spoken, we've been speaking in the car on the way home, the umpires and that, and we're talking about different performances. Guys wouldn't know what happened or wouldn't have noticed it because they were watching their quarter of the field or they were doing their particular job on the day.
The bit where you get shouted at RF, you let it flow. I mean, you must have watched games before in the past and seen the ebb and flow of matches and how a different style of refereeing influences things. Presumably when you're in the middle of a game, you've no clue about that. But is this something that you ever think about kind of retrospectively and go back and watch a game and go, could I have done something differently here? Would I have made changes to that? How do you feel about the role that the ref plays and the ultimate quality of the match?
Yeah, I suppose the big thing for us is that we are there to, I suppose, referee the game, and that is rule by rule, sequence by sequence, etc., etc. And I suppose over a period of time, teams become accustomed to a referee and their style of refereeing, no different than a referee becomes accustomed to a team style of play, etc., etc. And I suppose maybe down the line when them things marry up, sometimes you end up having something, especially when you have two things that are very compatible. You have, I suppose, a game that turns into be a very good spectacle for everybody. But you can't really judge a game or preempt anything because you could have the best will in the world to do X, Y, and Z before you throw the ball in, but the minute you throw the ball in and something changes, the course of the game is going down a totally different road altogether.
Yes, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. It's the Mike Tyson quote.
Yeah, like like I've been part of teams, with my own club and stuff like that, and you go out and all of a sudden you lose your best forward, to an injury, and next thing everybody, the heads drop and all that kind of stuff. So all them things come into play. Let it be a team of officials maybe making a mistake, or a player getting injured on a team, or the star player getting sent off, whatever the case may be. So you can preempt all these things, and people say, yeah, this has the potential to be a real good game, and the script goes out the window as soon as you throw the ball in and something like that happens.
They do this good thing, I think it might have been the Telegraph, and I don't want to get it wrong, but where they go back and they referee the Chelsea Leeds FA Cup final. They did it 20 years ago. They got David Ellery to do it, and they did it again recently. And it went from there would have been 4 red cards when David Ellery did it to 11 or 12 the last time. We've been doing some classic game club over the course of lock-in, and the Tyrone-Kerry game from 2005 had some fairly meaty challenges, elbows to the head that are waved on, or maybe a booking. Has the game changed that much, do you think, in your view, as somebody who kind of grew up watching it? And if you ever watch any of those games back, you're like, well, it's a little bit fruity, that challenge.
Yeah, we meet on a regular basis for seminars, and yes, we do go back on a lot of games, in the archives, to just to learn from them, to keep ourselves refreshed, different even technical incidents, I suppose the famous one is the Loudmead square ball. So we are constantly reminded and constantly watching back on our games, and there's no bigger critic than ourselves when it comes to reviewing games, because ultimately it's a reward driven game, no different than a player having a good performance. If we have a good performance as a referee, the potential for us to get the next biggest game or the next biggest appointment or a final or whatever the case may be comes on the back of delivering good performances, so we are definitely very much like that, and there's nobody better at scrutinizing ourselves than ourselves, because we just demand them standards of each other. And it's very hard for people to understand this. We are a team when we go out, and the performance of our team, as in the linesmen and the umpires around us, we really, really rely on them in order to get us across the line and delivering that good performance on the day, because you're relying on your umpires maybe to, pick something up off the ball, or make a really good Hawkeye decision, or whatever the case may be, and it's all performance pending, our job.
In terms of your own training at the moment, obviously the news kind of came through yesterday that we don't expect any Intercounty before October. Is that in line kind of with what you guys had been told, or is that your expectation too, that there won't be any significant time on the field refereeing matches probably until September in club?
Yeah, we had a meeting last week, and that's what we were told that was potentially coming down the line. Nothing was fully confirmed, but that's what the lie of the land looked like at that stage, and personally, I think they're doing a really good job and giving everybody the time to do what they need to do. We have training plans and structures, and we've always been training on our own, so nothing really changes there, but yeah, down the line it looks more or less the same as what the announcement was yesterday, pending that everything goes the way we're expecting it to go, that we're going to have club football first, followed by a potential intercounty season at the end of the year.
Martin, how do you feel about refereeing a game in terms of your own health and safety at the moment, before the end of the year?
I honestly would have no issue, because the GA and all the sporting bodies, we'd be naive to think that if the GA aren't in liaison with the IRFU or the FAI or any of them sporting bodies, I know the GA gets it in the neck a lot because they're the grassroots and they're part of every community, and they're the sport that everybody wants to talk about immediately. But I would be quite comfortable, because they're not going to put anybody at risk. You could have a person who has an underlying health condition that everybody is aware of, and then you could have somebody else who has an underlying health condition that nobody knows of, even the person themselves don't know about it, and them two people are equally as much at risk going out in a game if the potential was there to contact coronavirus. But I would be safe, because nothing is going to happen unless the GA are happy that the health authorities and the government has given them the green light. And it's just not the GA. As I said, we'd be quite naive to think that the GA aren't liaison with the IRFU, the FAI, and plus along with this, like everything that has happened so far, we've had the benefit of seeing what happened in China. We've the benefit of seeing what happened in Italy. And more than likely the sporting bodies in Ireland are going to have the benefit of seeing what happens in other European countries with regard to sports. And we're probably going to learn a bit from that, as to what we can do, what we can implement, and how we can make it safe for everybody going forward.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Martin, thanks a million for joining us this morning, and best of luck with your 11.2k.
Cheers, guys, and feel free to donate on our GoFundMe page.
Definitely. So it's GoFundMe if you want to know about the referees running for Pieta House this weekend. The entire intercounty panel of referees are doing it on Saturday, and we wish them all the best of luck for that. It's for a great cause. Now,